Hi, I'm Jeff Gonzalez, president of Trident Concepts, and today I'm here with Brownells Daily Defense to talk to you about self-defense insurance. So, first question is, why should you consider self-defense insurance? Well, there's a couple of big reasons. One is the legal system, for all its pluses, for all of its good things, is still very confusing for the layman to navigate. And having an organization that is going to be by your side and walk you through this process can be very reassuring. Another thing to keep in mind is that most of the time, the average person is busy in their own life and they don't necessarily go to the far extremes to really understand the legal system and what they should and shouldn't do. These guys are there to provide that type of information, to tell you what you should be focused on, to tell you how you should carry yourself in the post-shooting situations, and to provide you with the guidance on exactly how and what you should say. Now, a lot of times people will say, well, just don't say anything. And yes, of course, you can do that. But you don't set yourself up for a good defensive strategy that you will need later in the courtroom proceedings. And so there are things that you do need to communicate to the responding officers. And the different type of self-defense insurance can provide you with some guidance on exactly what you should be saying. Now, this all kind of like ties into a better understanding of the legal process and knowing the law. But the other things that I talk about are knowing about the legal system and the process that you're going to go through should you be in a self-defense situation. Now, any type of deadly force is going to come with a lot of strings attached, if you will. And so one of the things that you have to bear in mind is that you could do everything right. In your mind, everything that you did was by the book. But how it unfolds in the courtroom is really the key. And so the final consequences of losing a courtroom battle are extreme. They're very real. So you want to make sure that you have experts on your side that are familiar with self-defense law. Criminal defense has a subset to it, self-defense law. And so you want to make sure that they understand all of the details that go into the self-defense situations. And so when you think about our legal system, there are two sides. There's the criminal side and there's the civil side. And so obviously you can't be too worried about the legal proceedings. You have to first win the fight. And once you've won the fight, now you can start worrying about the legal system. And the first legal obstacle that you're going to have to face is the criminal side, which is where you need to either be found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt or you're pronounced not guilty and you move about your life. But even when you are found to be not guilty, there's still the possibility of having to face the criminal defense side. And so with that being said, self-defense insurance is very valuable because many companies nowadays not only provide you with resources for the criminal side, but also the civil side. And when you're talking about expenses, a courtroom kind of scenario is not cheap. And even if you have the best representation, it's still going to be very costly. Luckily, these types of self-defense insurance companies cover those costs. Some of them not just on the criminal side, but also on the civil side. So you want to try to kind of like compare, do a little bit of comparative shopping here to see which is going to work for you. Most of the plans are at a price point where it's kind of almost at a point where you really have no excuse why you wouldn't get the insurance. They've become extremely competitive and very affordable, and I think that is only opening up the doors to more people to consider this type of insurance. One of the other benefits to these organizations is they've become a huge educational resource. They provide you with all sorts of information, and much of this information is available to the public, but as a member, you get even more information. You get access to other things that are extremely valuable to you. And while you don't necessarily have to go from one end of the spectrum to the other as far as all that information, it's there for you should you choose. One of the things that I also try to talk about is, if you study the defensive gun use statistics, you'll find that, most of these defensive gun use are proven to have been justified, and most of the time they find themselves with a not guilty verdict. But they still come, again, with a pretty hefty price tag. And one of the things that I talk about is there's also the things that happen after all of that. In my position, I've been fortunate to have talked to many of my students who have had to go through the legal process and were found not guilty. And the common point that they bring up to me in this kind of setting, post once everything is settled, is the gratefulness that they invested in that service, the self-defense insurance, because they really didn't have any clue what to expect. And while you might see something on television, you might see some sort of drama that unfolds on television, realize that that is also designed to entertain. It may not be designed to inform. So be careful about the preconceived notions that you come up with. Most of the students all commented about how they were not prepared for what transpired in the courtroom, and that they were relieved to know that there was somebody right there to guide them through that process. And I think a lot of times when they talk to me about it, one of the things that they comment is how before they had the self-defense insurance, how they were just kind of playing the odds. All that time that they were carrying a firearm and being mindful of self-defense, and they hadn't at that point committed to investing in self-defense insurance, they realized that they were just kind of playing the odds. And in the end, most everybody that I talk to has a sense of peace of mind that there is somebody there to answer questions. There's somebody there to walk them through the process. There's somebody there to reassure them that this is a normal part of the process. Because a lot of times there's the fear of the unknown and not knowing what to expect in this type of a situation. So, in my opinion, if you are going to carry a firearm, if you are going to have a firearm in your home, if you are going to be involved in any type of self-defense scenario, investing in self-defense insurance is a wise strategy. It's almost as important as pursuing defensive gun training. This is another kind of facet that you can spend a lot of time and energy into exploring and becoming more informed on. So, in my opinion, it is one of the single best things that you can do that really doesn't impact your life too much. It's withdraw out of your bank account, of course, but after that, you really don't know it's there until you need it. So if you have questions or comments, please feel free to post them down below. Until then, I'm Jeff Gonzalez. Take care and stay safe.